If you have listened to BTS' new album Arirang, regardless if you love it or hate it, this video is for you. And if you don't care about BTS at all, never heard of them, but you care about the soul of a nation, your people, and egregores, this video is for you. When the Arirang album dropped, I listened to it and felt something I could not immediately explain. I was simultaneously somewhat irritated and fully drawn to listen again right away, as if something had just happened and I missed it, despite having observed it as attentively as possible. Paradoxically, so on that first day, I listened to it on repeat, and the second day, I simply could not bear to hear it anymore. So I took a break for 2 days. And on the fourth day, I felt a visceral need to listen to it as soon as I woke up. I just woke up in the morning and like, oh my God, I need to listen to Arirang. Why? And I listened to it. So doing that, it felt as if I heard it for the first time. And for the next 2 weeks, I almost felt sick if I didn't listen on repeat. And the more I listened, the more I craved to listen to it. And this feeling was intriguing. And of course, their promotions, they were perfectly supportive. Nothing was pushed. Everything seemed to go like organic, just enough. I had time to catch everything. And they made constant references to their Korean roots through their lyrics, through specific elements like the bell and this actual part of the song in Body to Body, and the stories that they also started to post of different Koreans of different ages. Like there was this old woman with fashion, and there was this young girl with the skateboard, I think she was. They had dreams and they contributed significantly to the world, and it showed about their inner drive. And then of course there was the Netflix performance, which was way too short, showing me once more that synth or not synth on that music. I think the album has too much synth, but the live, their voices, they give life to this album. I just could not listen to their old songs, the old playlist that I have with all the old songs. I just couldn't listen. It was just only Arirang, shuffle and repeat. I was craving for it. It was like, what is going on with this album? I still find new nuances to it. To this day, I've listened to it and I still listen to it almost every day, repeatedly. And logically, I know I love their voices and the entire concept, and I really don't like the synth. I feel there is something about this album that is far beyond the music alone. But the music carries it. As they themselves said in their live about it, that they prepared songs that they hope we like to listen to for a long time. And it is common knowledge by now that listening to a perfectly orchestrated song on repeat, eventually you get bored, no matter what. Pretty soon you get bored. That's just how our mind functions. For them to make an entire album to listen to for a long time, meaning without getting bored too soon, and getting on tour for more than a year with that album, to me this meant the way this album was made had deeper layers, beside whatever technicalities are used to create music that just sticks to your brain. I'm aware that such technicalities exist. This is how the type of hit songs are made lately, and that brings nothing to us. It just gets stuck in our head. So I was wondering, would BTS do this now just because they're back and they need the money? No, I don't mean that. The first song of the album reminded me of their initial Dark and Wild period, and from Swim onward, it was a sound that I personally liked better they knew it would be like this. Sugar already said that this is how the album is divided. And the lyrics of Normal and the melody of Like Animals are like, I was so hooked from the very first listen to this day. These two, they are my top addictive songs. But this is my personal music preference. However, number 29 was a big key for me, the bell. Okay, probably because it was well thought and perfectly positioned as a transition within the album. I'm used to such bell tones making steps in different meditations. So usually when I hear a dong like this or a bell like this, my brain recognizes it as a step in a meditation. Probably it was used to mark a transition. Probably it was used also as a protection for the entire album, given that such bells, like that Korean bell that they used, have the power and are built to emit specific protective resonances. Because that's why they are made. The point is that I actually felt like a gateway. Number 29 was like a gateway into another invisible layer, a realm that the album took the aware listening, took me as an aware listener, somewhere deep inside a vast, mysterious world that only souls can access, more or less consciously. And the soul of South Korea was like the gatekeeper. And in that world of souls, my own Romanian and part Danish soul were equally present and awakened. And also the Japanese soul that I have grown closer to in recent years. And this world of souls has a different timeline and no physicality, no boundaries in the physical, even though the nations that represent it are very physical, and those nations have boundaries, they have borders. But the world in the subtle felt more like distinct, but free to access. This experience made me simply want to understand what Arirang is. I could relate it to a somewhat similar Romanian word, which is dor. Both Arirang and dor, they have no translation into any other language. They both represent profound culturally and nation-wise defining concepts of emotional longing, nostalgia, and bittersweet sadness. They are cornerstones of national identity. Arirang functions primarily, as I understand, as a cultural symbol through folk song, and it represents resilience, longing for someone, but also having the resilience to overcome obstacles and make it through. Dor in Romanian is a direct, intense noun for an aching emotional yearning for someone or for something. It comes from the Latin dolere, and that means to feel pain. Both embody deep emotions focused on longing, separation, and nostalgia, and both are bittersweet, a mix of sadness and tenderness, rather than purely tragic sorrow. And both are considered untranslatable, and they capture the soul of the respective nation, Arirang for Korea and Dor for Romania. Both are central themes in traditional music, poetry, and art. Dor, the Romanian dor, is the raw emotional state of longing, while Arirang is the shared cultural expression of that feeling. These two words from opposite sides of the globe name an invisible but same or similar thing. And that's not a coincidence. This is like a soul of nations speaking a language that the mind was never meant to translate. And this brings me to a concept that I believe is essential to understanding what is actually happening here and what BTS is doing far more deliberately than most people realize. The word egregore comes from the Greek egregora, which means wakeful or watcher. It refers to a collective field of consciousness that arises through shared ritual, intention, and emotion, transcending individual minds. And here's what I realized. Arirang itself is a call, an expression made into a living field. It's been fed for centuries by millions of Koreans who have been singing it. And when a thought form grows large enough through repeated focus and emotional intensity, it becomes a collective presence operating with its own momentum, an entity sustained by devotion from a small group all the way to an entire nation. Arirang is exactly that, and BTS consciously plugged into it with this album. And I get now that for some of you, the word egregore is new. And for others, it may even sound abstract, like whatever is that? So I can tell you what it felt like before I had the concept for it. It felt like the bell on the track 29 opened the door, and on the door, on the other side of the door, it was like a field. Something ancient and vast, something that already knew me, even though I have no Korean blood in my veins. I've never been to Korea even. And that experience is like what science is now beginning to map. Like, I found out doing my research that a 2025 paper published in AIP Advances proposes that consciousness is not an emergent byproduct of neural activity, but a foundational aspect of reality, and predicts that field-like effects of consciousness should become measurable during global emotional events. A folk song sung by an entire nation, repeated across centuries, is a global emotional event. The science is quietly catching up to what shamans already knew. Collective consciousness fields are suggested to act in ancient Japanese no theater and in truly cathartic performances. Like this kind of performances that gives you catharsis, states of catharsis. And for that, the artist is exerting effect through words, through movement, and intense emotions that operate through what researchers describe as a merged biofield. So, what does that say about BTS Arirang world tour itself? Body-to-body song itself. You know, I'm beginning to see BTS as like some kind of personal opinion, okay? Modern shamans who understand that universal collective emotion is a quantum field technology, even if they don't use that language. They don't just sing this album and Body to Body and the other tracks in the album. They invoke the Korean soul, national soul. They do it together with ARMY, and ARMY in itself has become an egregore. Quantum consciousness research suggests that the brain may be far more connected to the universe than classical models allow, offering, as one researcher described it, a world picture in which we can be connected to the universe in a more natural and holistic way. Longing, then, Arirang, and Dor, it might be like a quantum antenna of the soul tuning toward home. I realize what BTS is actually doing, in my opinion, through this comeback, and why the new album is called Arirang, a term that every Korean in any corner of this planet can relate to directly. And from their heart, they just know. Somehow they know it. They didn't study it somewhere. It was passed on in their families through generations. What BTS is actually doing is uniting Koreans across the globe. No matter where they are, they relate to this, to the soul of Korea. And this is a call of the heart, more than of the mind. It is a call in spirit. And it touched me so deeply because I have, again, no Korean, nothing to do with Korean roots. But I have strong connection with my own soul, and I am deeply invested and interested in the connections of the souls of the nations and of the soul of the world. Koreans are connected to their own soul, national soul, and egregore. I am connected to the Romanian and the Danish one because I was born in Romania and spent half of my life in Denmark. So I assimilated by being there and interacting, and consciously, actually, I was meditating with Danish national soul. So I assimilated much of it. And the egregore, the soul of a nation, rarely has anything to do with the current society living there, like the actual society and the rules. No, it has to do with the depth of the nation, the specific soul elements of that nation, the roots, the history, the culture. There are levels of identity. One of them is with the soul of the nation you are born in. And then, from my experience, with the soul of the nation or the nations that you moved to and stayed in for more than 3 years, which shapes you. And that's the case of everybody who left their country and lives in another country for more than 3 years. Koreans as well. Research on bicultural identity integration shows that people who live at least 3 years in another culture develop measurable neurological and psychological restructuring, literally rewiring. So when I say Denmark is part of my soul now, even if I was not born there, just because I lived there for almost 20 years, I mean that in full awareness, and the science agrees. And then growth and evolution within one lifetime is about becoming more and more encompassing of various other souls of the nations. Nationalism itself, like the identity of a nation, is a step along the way. You can be like nationalistic, but it's not about that. The next step actually is to include more and more other souls, other nations, to expand your own heart and your own ability to identify with the one you were born in, with the one you have lived in for more than 3 years. Maybe you moved and lived for more than 3 years in other ones, and then you can relate to more than 2. But the idea is to expand, it shapes, all of them shape you, and you become more and more enriched with the beauty and culture and roots of all of these nations and souls that you've been experiencing by living there. The idea is to encompass, to embrace all of them, not to dominate, not to think in terms of this or that, like mine over yours or theirs over mine, or like whatever, what the society actually does. Our souls are actually connecting by embracing, not by dominance. And the idea is not to lose yourself in this by forcing or imposing your own egregore, or by subjecting yourself to another's, like I was saying earlier, but to grow yourself into one who can be more of what there is with the same heartfelt love. So what way is BTS actually paving from this perspective? Because it looks to me that they are showing the entire world how true living is done. Like RM is saying, born in Korea, now singing for the world. And yet their message is about unity. And it starts with their roots, fully taking responsibility for their roots, Korean, and then uniting Koreans across the globe by doing Body to Body and the whole album, Arirang. And yet, their international fans, who have nothing to do with Korea like me, are touched just as much. So what are they doing now? Because this is so far further than the mainstream music industry and awards and whatever. What are they doing now with this comeback? Honestly, I'm really impressed. Because I do believe they are just showing to the whole world how to live truly, how true living is done. Because alongside their deep roots in Korea identity, they are constantly reminding us that we are the stars in our own lives. That both things can be true at once. You can be fully rooted in where you came from and fully free in who you are becoming by simply fully taking responsibility for your own life. That's a spiritual teaching. That's how I see it. I was super impressed when I heard V's lyric in Normal. Got me feeling things unusual, and I live them all. And that makes me consider like the cosmic human. Now I'm making an analogy with the astrological cycles because I study astrology. The idea with 12 zodiac signs is to experience each of them, and then it's like you become complete, like a cosmic human, where you lived everything, you felt everything, you carried it in a physical body across human years. In the zodiac, it's easy because 12 dimensions of human experience waiting to be integrated, less as intellectual exercise and more as lived initiation. Reincarnation, whether you believe in it or not, maps it across multiple lifetimes. What a national egregore offers when you meet it with open awareness rather than inherited identity alone is a doorway into a dimension of the human soul you could not have accessed any other way. And BTS facilitates that for us through Arirang. Romania gave me dor, a deep soul ache, reflecting attachment rather than just sadness. Perhaps this is why it always felt like the wrong country to have been born in, although I know astrologically it's never the wrong country, but it always felt like that. That specific yearning and ache for going home was precisely what I felt while living here in the first part of my life. It was as if my soul had arrived in the wrong coordinates and spent its entire Romanian chapter longing for a place it had not yet found. Denmark, once I moved there, raised me into detachment and discernment because the soul of Denmark is alive with a force of mental clarity and practicality that literally cured me from the drama embedded in my Latino blood, as well as from the victim mentality, which is specific to Romanian nation. Korea, through BTS and through Arirang, gave me resilience, worn as beauty and love and unity and joy of life, as well as grief. And all of this transformed through a song that a whole people can feel home together. Japan, the Japanese egregore, while I went there, welcomed me, both in the invisible and the visible space. Just so I could finally feel that there actually is a place and a people on this planet where I can feel at home. where order, discipline, and the purity of the heart and honor, dignity is not just an ideal, but a fact. One that has shaped a small country with big hearts and big honor. I see the reflection of the worldly into the spiritual with this album and the heights BTS have positioned themselves at. It's unstoppable at this point from the soul point of view, from the spiritual point of view as I see it. As above, so below, the Hermetic principle. What they are doing on the world stage is a mirror of what the soul does across its own vast journey. They're not just making music, choreography, everything else that they are doing, because it's such like everything about them is so intertwined into basically everything, like merch and hype and sports and yeah, you know, everything. They are demonstrating publicly, visibly, at scale, what it looks like to be fully rooted and fully expanded at the same time. My understanding is that this is showing how true living is done. If this video finds you, and if you're still listening, I guess you are here also due to resonance with deep perspectives on spiritual life, just like many of you who wrote comments brought me the joy to actually understand what I'm talking about here with the channel. So this is why I believe the next few videos I will make, I will dive a little bit deeper into this national soul, and I will take the Korean, the Romanian, the Danish, and the Japanese egregore, because these are the ones that I am so much closer to now and exploring and experiencing and feeling fulfilled by and with. Make a video for each one of them and develop more on the specific nature of each. And I hope that will be relevant for you. Let me know how you feel about that, and also please share your perspective on what I'm just talking about here. How do you feel about it, and how do you see things? Where are you watching from? What egregore do you belong to? I've seen recently a lot of views from India. That's another deep one. Let me know in the comments. Where are you at? Let's spirit.